Today, I had the pleasure of talking with Joe Massa. Joe is a radio and podcast veteran. He's been in the game for over 20 years, and he's dedicated his career to exploring what makes us uniquely human. He's also the host of the Measuring Post podcast, which I highly recommend checking out. In that, he spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours delving deep into exactly that. What makes us human? The search for meaning, technological change, all of the things that I really genuinely love to explore. And a lot of it we talk about in this episode. So if you enjoy this episode, definitely check out the Measuring Post podcast. He's also the founder of Podtopia Network. This is a network that helps podcasts grow organically, naturally, and helps make them connections that are difficult to make in the beginning. Starting a podcast is very difficult, so I also highly recommend you check that out. It's a nice free resource, and Joe is an absolute expert when it comes to these types of things. But in this episode, Joe and I talk about a lot of very, very interesting topics that I hold very near and dear to my heart. When Joe reached out, one of the things that he said he wanted to talk about was how Marcus Aurelius would handle social media anxiety. This one stuck really, really deep to me. Marcus Aurelius is one of the first philosophy books that I read, his book Meditations. Highly recommend reading that. But we talk about that. We talk about why managing attention is so important and why it was such a crucial aspect for all of the greatest minds in history, how they actually manage their attention and what it does for them. We talk about the paradox of infinite information. We have all of this information, but a finite amount of wisdom. We can only learn so much. We further talk about what it means to build meaningful human connections in this ever disconnecting world. Joe has seen this process happen over his career. Over 20 years, he's seen this process happen. And after that sort of brings us into talking about why podcasting is so large right now, why it's blowing up, why we search for why we want these long form conversations over something like a TikTok soundbite. You can really get the same value from both, but there's something deeper behind podcasting that makes it a little bit more powerful. It reveals something about our human hunger for authentic conversation. But if any of these are interesting to you, I think you'll love this episode. We talk about that and a lot more, but I will stop my rambling and let you listen to the actual conversation. My name is Devin Allen. This is the Still Becoming podcast. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, or follow on whichever platform you're listening on. It really means a lot. I'm really trying to get this show off the ground, and the support has been outstanding. But without further ado, here's my conversation with Joe Massa. What's Podtopia Network?
Podtopia Network started as, actually, I took a job as a podcast publicist for an international PR firm. And I started working there, and what they wanted to do was build out a podcast division for their clients, their media and PR clients. As I got into that company and started working with the individual who owned it, it became pretty clear that he was not a very good guy. He was ripping off clients. He was not doing the right things. So I knew right away I was not going to involve my clients and my contacts with that company. So I walked away from there after only a few months. And I knew that, I was brought in to build out this division of a PR company. So why not do it for myself? It's 20 years of my contacts. It's my skill set. It's my, it's my people that I work with. So Podtopia started in January of this year. And since then, it's been growing and getting bigger and bigger month to month with adding new clients, new services, and just sort of building out what we're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens when you take a second to take inventory of the skills that you have, of the history that you have, and then see what you can do on your own. I think a lot of people forget that they have agency. They've been in an industry for 20 years. That makes them the industry expert.
Yeah. And, this isn't the first business that I've started, but it's by far my most exciting for me. It's the one that I really enjoy the most. I did radio for many, many years. I still work in the industry, and not only talking on the microphone and being like the personality, but I love the back end scene. I love doing the promotions and the production and voiceovers and audio and video editing. So it was a lifetime of skills that I've built and worked with some amazing people in the industry. And you're absolutely right. Why do it for someone else when you can do it for yourself? And the answer is usually simple. It's people are afraid. You're afraid to do it for yourself, or the fear of not being able to be successful. And again, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of money and investment, not only for time, but it's one of those things that you have to understand. If you're self-employed, sometimes people think that means you're unemployed.
Hmm.
Really what it means is that you're hyper-employed. You're always working. You're always on the clock because you got to wear every hat. I do the sales, the marketing, the production. I do the creative work. I do the busy work. So it's overwhelming if you're not prepared for that, but truly the most rewarding thing you can do for yourself if you're looking to start a business.
Yeah. For me, starting the podcast, I've been listening to podcasts since, 2016. So I've been very, very interested, and I've been listening to, how to build a podcast and what to look for, and, all the philosophy and whatnot behind it. But the one thing that sort of stopped me from delving into it has always been the embarrassment or the possibility of failure and the embarrassment that might bring. But I sat down one day after a really long run, and I was exhausted, and I was listening to a podcast not too dissimilar from yours, and somebody said something that really struck me. It was along the lines of, "Well, if you don't start, you've already failed. So, what do you have to lose?"
Yeah, and there's always the saying, like, your first one is not going to be good. Your first
Mhm.
newsletter, your first podcast, your first workout, whatever you're starting is probably going to be not very great the very first time, but that shouldn't be what stops you or holds you back. And again, the fear or embarrassment of, like, what are people going to think of how I talk or my content? That goes away with a little bit of practice. But also, you realize I'm not doing this for every single person in the world. This is therapeutic for me. I'm speaking
Mhm.
my truth. I'm sharing what wisdom I do have with people that want to tune in. And you're going to have haters and critics that don't like it. But if you let that be the reason you don't move forward, you're absolutely right. You've already failed because you didn't even give yourself a chance. And you can't be great at something if you never get the consistency and the practice
Mhm.
in. And the only way to practice is to practice. You have to actually do it. So it's one of those things that can feel daunting and embarrassing, but I promise you the more and more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and eventually it's like second nature, and you would be lost without being able to do it.
Yeah, I've already noticed that. I found myself, I still have my 9 to 5, but I found myself having these little mini podcasts at work, just talking about, whatever interests me. Uh, but I think from the other perspective, why have podcasts seen such a massive increase, especially in the past couple of years? What's driving us towards this?
Well, the increase in technology, the upgrades of technology, not only with the streaming capabilities, everything's gone digital, everything's mobile. People are on their phones, tablets. Very rarely that people are on desktops or even laptops anymore, short of outside of a work environment. So it's really easy to consume on the go on your smartphone or your tablet. But here's the thing about podcasting, what's so great about it, not only from a marketing perspective, but for driving a business. If you want to really build your brand, you should absolutely have a podcast. And the reason is people that tune in a podcast are hyper engaged. For
Hmm.
instance, when you get in your car and you turn on the radio, whatever's on is on. You have no control. It's just playing, and that's kind of where you're at. But if you actually tune into a podcast, I go to your site, I download it, I save it for later, I consume the 30, 60 minutes of content. There's a reason I'm doing that. It's because I'm already interested in your topic. So it's a great marketing piece and something that is evergreen, meaning it stays online forever or as long as you leave it online. So you can put a piece of great content up there and let it sit for years and build value for you and collect views and reviews. And then also people respond and comment, and it builds this authority. All of a sudden, you become a thought leader in your space. So it's exploding because it's simply more convenient than I think radio. Now, coming from radio, also, there's this unfortunate dying of the art. It'll never go away because it's a free medium. You don't pay for radio unless you're doing like satellite radio, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it was even 20 years ago when I got into it. And it's not being done locally anymore. There used to be this live and local on your FM dial sort of radio mentality, and now it's all syndicated. The big markets, New York, Chicago, Denver, Atlanta, they're the ones that got the radio jocks in their studios, and they distribute it pretty much nationwide. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not local radio jocks out there. It's just not as common anymore. So the fact that we can all do this from our basements, our offices, our spare bedrooms, a lot of people are excited to get their word and brand out there. And it's just simply blowing up because for lack of a better reason, it can. It's the right time. So it's the time to get into it if you're interested.
Yeah, it's really difficult for something like radio to compete with this, like you said, evergreen, uh, freelance technology. It's basically permanent public speaking. What you say is there forever. Anybody can go back, they can listen to it in long form, just like you're there in person, and it connects people in a different way than I think radio can. So I don't see it as the competitor. I see it as the next evolution of radio.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's not a competitor. It's a supplement to radio, and it is that next phase of where the industry is going. Now, the reality is a lot of people that are on radio, myself included still, we also have podcasts.
Mhm.
And a lot of radio shows are repurposed as podcasts. So there is a very, very big crossover between the two, but they're not created equal and they're not really on the same playing field, for lack of a better word. They're similar, but again, radio's traditionally audio only. Podcasts can be audio only, but the more and more technology that comes out, video podcasts are where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Now, that kind of is scary to a radio guy because I got into radio to not be on camera. I didn't want to do TV. I wanted to do radio where I could just talk on the microphone, listen to my music, and it was great. But to be able to be on camera also, it adds a level of authority to it. So when you can see me talk and you can realize who I am, put a face to the name and to the voice, it really builds trust. You understand that I know what I'm talking about. And then people keep coming to your show for advice. Before you know it, those are the people that become your brand ambassadors. They're the ones that are going to support your products, buy your courses. They're going to buy from your business. They're going to recommend you to their friends. And that's how you start to build out a network that starts to produce for you, the individual.
Yeah, I think everything surrounding podcasting, YouTube, TikTok, all of these other mediums that are in direct competition for your attention. I think that's very interesting, the interplay there. In a world where, shorts sort of own the ear space, they own the vast majority of people's time, podcasts still seem to find a way to grow. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are driven towards these longer conversations?
I think part of it becomes down to like enjoying a person's personality or their presentation skills for sure. The same way that you might follow a certain fitness influencer on Instagram or a comedian or a Jake Paul on YouTube. It's because you've consumed enough of their content. It's familiar. You enjoy it. And it's sort of that wow factor. What are we going to get today? But a lot of us are trained and really conditioned to watch these Instagram reels, Facebook videos, LinkedIn. It's what most people do all day, every day anyways. And the younger the kids get, the more and more they get into that lifestyle where it's all digital. For instance, I have 2 kids and now like my youngest is going to be 12 years old in September. They don't give textbooks anymore almost at all. They get a school issued laptop. So everything is in this digital content format for them. So it's really easy to continue to give them things in that format where they already know exactly what to do, how to consume it, where to find it. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, they're just the vessel. They're the medium where you can find them. But it comes down to, what do you enjoy watching? For example, my son, it might be fitness and working out videos. For my wife, it might be cooking videos or something along that. For me, it might be an entrepreneurship video. The beauty of it is there's millions, literally millions of options in the podcasting space. Find people you enjoy watching and then go and consume and, try to make it your own or learn from them and go out and take it into your day-to-day life.
Yeah. When you first reached out, you had said that the greatest minds in history are masters of attention management. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so one thing I'm a really big proponent on also, and I know your podcast kind of dives into this topic, is it's not always being connected to the device, right? I really like to do a lot of reading, and I forget the quote. I should have looked it up before this, but there's a quote like, you read somebody's biography because you get their whole lifetime of experience in one book. Some guy or gal spent 30, 40, 50, 60 years living, learning, doing, achieving. They put it in a book. If you read that, you get a masterclass on somebody's whole psyche. They were able to consolidate a lifetime of information into a text or some sort of volume that you can read and take into your own life and learn from it. I really love a book. It's by the ancient Roman guy, Marcus Aurelius. It's called
Mhm.
Meditations. And it's actually his personal journal. It was never meant for people to read. It was his own internal monologue that he wrote to teach himself and to remind himself how to be the best version of himself he could be. So after his death, this book was found, his diary, and it was, distributed to the masses. And the wisdom in it is overwhelmingly amazing. If you've never read Meditations, put it on your list of books to download and read. It's truly wonderful, but it's so insightful to see somebody from thousands of years ago that they were dealing with things that are very prevalent to today. Maybe he didn't have an iPhone, but he dealt with loss and mourning and grief and joy and politics and everything that we see today. It's been going on for millennium. We're not going through anything new. We're just the latest installment of people on the planet going through the gauntlet. So when you look at somebody's mind and their history and what they've accomplished, you can learn from them. You can see, how did they manage difficult times? How did they deal with war and politics and injustice? How did they use their time to benefit themselves and benefit their communities? So I'm a big fan of learning from people that came before me, because I know that I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and you can learn a lot from people that were much smarter than you. So I'm a big fan of learning from history's greatest minds.
Yeah, Meditations was one of the first philosophy books that I read, uh, like a decade ago now. And there was one section of it that really struck me deep. He talks about being stuck in bed, how the bed was so comfortable, it was so warm, and the outside was so cold. And you really think, this is the most powerful man in the world, one of the most powerful people in history. And he had the same problem that me, at the time I was like 15. He knew exactly what I was going through, and he did it 2,000 years ago. So it really is, it's so powerful going through these biographies and learning about the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks, the Marcus Aureliuses, and seeing how they overcame their problems, because without a doubt, you're going to encounter at least one of them.
And they went through the same thing that 99% of us go through. Look at a guy like Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder. He started in his garage. He
Mhm.
was a nobody, drove an old beat up Honda or something, and he was selling books out of his garage.
Mhm.
Now it's the biggest company on the planet, or certainly one of them. And he struggled. His first 5 or 6 years in business, they were bankrupt. They were losing money, but he said, I'm not going to quit. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And if a guy like that can do it and turn it into Amazon, what's stopping you and me from being that next person? 90% of it, 99% of it is us internally. It's that giving up too quickly, not committing, not learning, not making it a priority to keep going forward, even when everything in your mind is telling you, stop, this isn't working. The people that push through that, those are the ones that become the higher level, the top 1% people.
Mhm.
But again, they're not unique. A lot of people you'll see, especially if you look at some of the world's richest list, if that intrigues you. I don't have a desire to be the richest guy on the planet, but if you look at a lot of the guys or gals that went on to be very rich, they're not the ones that created the most famous technology or found this, Google or anything like that. They're the ones that picked an industry and just kept going. They just never quit. They gave it their all. They committed to something that they believed in, and they went forever and ever and ever, until all of a sudden, after years of commitment and dedication to it, they can look back and go, man, I built an empire, like something truly mind blowing. But it wasn't revolutionary. It wasn't something that you couldn't do or I couldn't do. They just worked harder than we did. But then you look back at their story of how they got from A to B, and you're like, these are normal people. These are people that woke up every day and stubbed their toes and had bad mornings and got flat tires or whatever the case was. They just didn't quit. So that's the best piece of advice, is always move forward and never quit.
Yeah. You're constantly 6 months away from the ideal version of yourself. You can. I read that today. You can, if you don't start now, you'll always be 6 months away. It doesn't take that long to start something like this. I was at a racetrack. I don't drive race cars, but I like to watch them. And I was at a racetrack, and one of the guys driving a McLaren 720S. I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" "I'm driving a 2004 Buick. What am I doing wrong?" And he was like, "Oh, you didn't find something niche and you didn't pursue it." He made his money off of the little plastic bit on an IV. You sell thousands of them to hospitals. They're disposable. You can't reuse them. And he made, hand over fist in this generational money off of this one little thing. And I guarantee it was just because he was consistent. He showed up every day. He said, hey, I have this thing. It solves a problem in your hospital. Do you want it? And he did that every day across the country for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. Then there he is. He's living the dream life. He's living exactly what he wanted to do.
You said a couple of things there that I really liked. And, going back to the 6 months thing, there's another saying that goes, in 6 months from now, you'll either have 6 months of progress or 6 months of excuses. And that's easy to understand. And that's anybody. So yeah, again, same thing with like weight loss, put it to something we can all relate to. If you want to lose weight in 6 months, I could already say I've lost 20 pounds, or I could be right where I'm at and go, well, I'll get to it. Well, it's do now or don't do it all, but don't make excuse or feel bad or be shocked why it didn't work. But there's another method that I really like, and something that sort of was eye-opening when I first read it. And it's from a guy named Sahil Bloom. He does like a newsletter, and he's like mid-30s, but I like his content. So you can download his newsletter, and I'm no affiliation with him. I just like his stuff. But it was this idea of 30 minutes a day for 30 days in a row. If you want to start a new skill, for instance, make it something completely arbitrary. Like, I want to get good at using a yo-yo. Okay. I don't have that desire, but if I really wanted to get good, I could do 30 minutes a day for 30 days in a row. That's 900 minutes of practice. That is going to make me, just based off of that alone, better than majority of the world, based on that 30 minutes a day, which is something we always get in this idea that there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough time. Well, if you sort of backtrack how much time you waste a day, there's always time for 30 minutes of something, almost exclusively. Whether that's pursuing a passion like your podcast, starting a business, getting in shape, learning a new skill or hobby, you can find 30 minutes a day. And literally within 1 month, you can be more than proficient at that skill, or have a very good understanding of what you need to do to get to that next level just by putting in that effort. So that's something that I think a lot of people overlook, is just try it. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to do all the research and have everything lined up. Just go and do it a little bit and see if it's something you even like. And if it is, you can upgrade equipment and resources over time, but just do it. So I think that's one thing that people forget, is that you don't get good by buying the best camera, the best microphone, the best computer. You get good just by using what you have and going and moving forward on that. So I think that's something. But you said something about the race car driver, which I like too. You do want to have a niche. You do want to have an angle, but what's really important is solving a problem first, right? So that little thing he created, he saw a need. He solved a problem. If it's a problem that you face in your day-to-day work, whether you're an entrepreneur that does retirement and crypto, or you're a roofer that needs a special new hammer, if you solve somebody's problem, there's likely a need for that product. There's going to be other people who do what you do that will see this and go, I have the same problem. So instead of trying to come out with the next social media platform, the next AI, sort of algorithm, instead of doing something that seems dauntingly impossible, solve a problem, solve a simple problem. And oftentimes it's a lot easier than you think. And, that could be the next big break in generational wealth, like you said.
Yeah. And the problems don't even have to be something as large as, solving a problem for hospitals. It could be walking around your neighborhood and you see, oh, my neighbor's windows are disgusting. They need to be cleaned. I'm going to go knock on their door and say, hey, I live right up the street. Can I clean your windows? And who knows where that'll lead? Even if you don't want to clean their windows, it could be, oh, now I have a new friend. I have a new person, a new connection to talk to. I now know my neighbors a little bit better. And that opens up so many doors, going out there and meeting new people.
And it's a great way to network. And that's one thing that I think also younger generations don't quite understand as well as some of the older guys. I know you're in your early to mid 20s. I'm 40. We grew up on like this mantra of like provide value first. And I'm not saying that younger people don't have that, but when I know that I go out there and give value to somebody, whether it's a business partner, a potential new partner, instead of calling them up and going, hey, would you like to sponsor my show? Would you like to do this? I go, how can I help you? Let me provide something for you. Now, all of a sudden, I've shown some value to you. I'm worthy of your attention, for lack of a better term. Next time something comes across your plate where you go, oh, I think I know a guy. Joe might be the perfect fit for you. And it's because I went and did something and I expanded my network a little bit. I said, hey, and it could be a neighbor. It could be anything. Neighbor Bill, hey, your windows are dirty. I noticed that. Do you mind if I clean them for you? Now, next time you need something, your neighbor might be the first person to go there and help you because he goes, wow, this was really great. This young man came over. He helped me out. He did something that needed to be done without asking. Now, all of a sudden, you're a valued member of his community. And when you do that to enough people, all of a sudden, opportunities start coming to you instead of you chasing them down.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you heard of the podcast, I think it's by David Senra, called Founders?
I have. I'm not overly familiar with it. I'm familiar with the title, but I can't say if I've ever watched a full episode or not.
Yeah. Oh man, if there's a podcast that should be like mandatory listening if you want to get into entrepreneurship or really pursue anything in terms of difficult tasks or greatness, David Senra and Founders is definitely something to listen to. He talks, he reads biographies from Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, all of those types, true founders, and he really dives in like 45-minute sections on all of the most important lessons. He reads like the Amazon shareholder letters from the past 12 years, and if you want to talk about providing value, he figured that out. He figured out, okay, people want to start businesses, they don't know where to start. Okay, I'm going to condense the human knowledge of founding a business, and I'm going to make a podcast about that. And then here he is, and he has all of these multi-billion-dollar companies reaching out saying, I've made your podcast mandatory listening for all my new trainees, stuff like that. So that's the power of finding a need. It's not talked about enough how finding value can really change your life. So how do you find value?
Well, I like what you said, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know what he does? He reads other people's books. He reads their experiences and what they learned. Watch the people that are doing what you want to do. Never take advice from somebody that isn't where you want to be. And I mean that on a business level. There's always going to be people that say, you can't do it. You won't make it. Those are typically the people that aren't doing it and aren't making it. So find the people that you look up to and gravitate towards those kind of people and get in circles and hang out with people that make you better and want the best for you, because those are the people that are going to teach you things. They're the ones that are going to let you in on those little secrets that nobody wants to share. And then again, if you become the person that is given some information that is valuable to you, don't gatekeep information. We're here to teach the people around us, make everyone better, bring everyone up, because then you're building a better community, a better society. So you find value, by looking for it and finding what's important to you. First of all, you need to know what you consider valuable. Your values might be different than my values, might be different than the next person's values. Once you know what you want, who you are, what you believe in, go to the people that are doing what you respect and what you look up to and what you want to do. Learn from those kind of people. That's where you're going to get all the information that really matters. And a guy like you're talking, this guy who hosts Founders, he's looking up to people that have multi-billion-dollar companies, and now he has multi-billion-dollar companies, multi-million, whatever it is. He's doing quite well, it sounds like. So there's a real truth to that, and it's learn from the people that are doing what you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're talking about something else I think is particularly applicable here. You mentioned the paradox of infinite information and finite wisdom. What does that mean?
Analysis paralysis, the shiny object syndrome, going down the rabbit hole. There's a lot of names you can give it. But again, I sort of hinted at that earlier. Like when I first wanted to start my business, I got into this mode where I'm doing all the research and I got, the cup of coffee and the crazy lights in the middle of the night and I'm typing. I was doing too much. I was trying to learn and do things that I didn't need to do. You don't need to know every answer. You don't need to learn every piece of software. And then as I'm learning a piece of software, then I get a video of my software I'm learning compared to this software. Now I got to learn all about this software. And all of a sudden I've spent all this time and effort learning and trying to figure out how to do it. And then at the end of it, I realized I actually didn't do any of it. I just watched other people pretend to do it and I didn't do anything. All I did was get lost down the rabbit hole. So the reality is with the internet, There's no shortage of information. There's 1.5 billion videos you could watch and still not do anything with it. So instead of trying to find the next best, use what's at your disposal. If you have a Google system, use Google. If you have Microsoft, use Microsoft. If you have a Mac, use Mac. Use the tools at your disposal first. Start to do it. You'll figure out what you like about your platform, what you don't, what you can do better. And if you're really excited and still passionate about whatever you're doing, you upgrade over time. Again, I've seen a lot of people go in and they want to start a podcast. So I started a course where I teach people how to start their own podcast. And I've had people go through it, and before they get started, they've already spent like $5,000 or $6,000 on equipment. I go, why did you get all that? Well, I got to have the best on this and the best of that. No, you don't. You absolutely do not need to have that at all. Use the web camera built into your laptop. Use the pair of earbuds that came with your iPhone or Android device. Start there. And if you like it and you want to keep going, then maybe buy a microphone. Then maybe buy a camera. But work into it. Don't go down the hole of doing all the research and chasing the shiny objects, because there's never gold at the end of the rainbow. There's just more rainbow, and you'll just never get to where you're going.
Yeah, you can never attain perfection through planning. You can only attain it through doing. You have to take action. And that's where I was 2 years ago. I made the decision I want to start a podcast. And then 1 month ago, I actually started the podcast. And in those 23 months where I wasn't really doing anything, I didn't start it, I didn't learn anything. I thought I was learning. I thought I was making progress. But then the first episode came out and it's like, oh, this sucks. I should have just started 2 years ago and I would have been, wherever I would have been. But yeah, you just have to start.
Yeah, you definitely have to start. And here's the other reality with the rapid change in AI and everything that's coming down the pipeline every single day. What you spend the last 6 months learning, it's probably already inadequate. It's already old. It doesn't work anymore. There's already multiple better options out there. So instead of like trying to keep up, just pick something and go. Just run with it. Eventually, you'll learn what's working for you, what's not. You can do the old A/B testing, like, I'll try this newsletter platform. Okay, cool. So you're doing a little bit of testing, see which one you like better. That's fine. But the reality is just do it. Put out the newsletter and be consistent. Consistency is way better than all the plans in the world. And there's another saying, like a good enough plan today is far better than a perfect plan tomorrow, because that'll absolutely never happen. You're right. You can never get to perfection. And again, trying to achieve perfection is a lost cause anyways. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. Nothing will ever be the way you hope it will be. Instead, be good at adapting on the fly and rolling with the punches. Because if you're adaptable, it doesn't matter what's thrown at you. You're going to find a way to get through it and make it work.
Yeah, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So Mike Tyson says. I think he knows a thing or two about that.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't fly blind. How do you know when your plan is good enough to just go?
So it's a bit of a loaded question because it depends on what your plan is.
Sure.
But I think your plan is good enough to go when you've actually done the MVP, the minimum viable product, right? So again, put it for this example. You're creating a piece of software. Now, the idea is just to solve a simple problem. Okay, I need an invoicing system for plumbers because I'm a plumber. I don't have one. This would make sense for me. And this is just a hypothetical. Now, the problem people run into is they want to make it perfect. Mm-hmm. You need this website has to have everything, all the bells and whistles, very polished, no mistakes. It has to have 97 features built into it. But that's not what it was designed for. So when you get just the minimum viable product that's ready to launch it out and test it. Let people go through it and see if it's even worthy of building out further. Because what you might end up doing is spending a lot of time, money, and effort building something that in your mind is flawless, and you get it out there in the wild and people go, what is this? Why would I even want this? So now not only did you waste a bunch of time, money, and effort, it's not even going to make you any money back. Nobody wants it. So now you're back to the drawing board. So my advice for anyone starting anything would just be, just get the first version of it out. Version 1 will be the deciding factor if it's worthy to continue down the road. So all of a sudden I've had a million business ideas and I go, oh, this is a brilliant idea. I'm building it out. I got social media platforms. I bought the domain. I got logos. I did all this busy work. And then I share it with a few people and they go, that's dumb. I go, really? I thought it was brilliant, but I did all the work. I got the logo, I got the domain name, and I spent a bunch of money, and it fell flat because I overthought it. I did the shiny object syndrome. And instead of just putting out the basic minimum version of it, I tried to make a masterpiece when it wasn't there yet. So, I think to long-windedly answer your question, when you've decided in your mind that this is a problem that needs solving and you found something that would solve it for yourself, that's when it's worth pursuing.
Yeah. And there's so much power behind iterative design because then you can get like customer feedback. Something that you might have never noticed, no matter how much time you've spent on it, the customer can be like, this is a deal breaker. You're like, oh no, this thing I just spent a year on, it's not even good enough for my first customer.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have this skill set, but be willing to take that criticism and not take it as an attack. You're never going to get better if you can't let someone tell you what they like or don't like about either you, your product, your business. You can't take everything personal because, first of all, you can't have everyone as your customer. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Not everyone's going to buy my product, consume my show, listen to my advice, and that's okay. I don't need everyone to listen to me. I don't need anyone to listen to me for me to be happy with my product. But when someone comes to me and says, hey, I've been listening to your show, I think you should do this. I might not agree, but I'll sleep on it. I'll take that information in and I'll genuinely consider it and try it. Maybe I'll go, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe that's a great something I completely didn't see. It's really hard to look in the mirror sometimes or be introspective on yourself, but it's really easy to see something flawed in someone else. I think we're all really good at that. So sometimes, and again, take it from like a family member, a friend, I share things with people and I ask them very candidly, please be very honest with me. If I just made this video or this course and it's awful, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I need to know this before I go and try to sell it to a larger audience. If my own brother can't tell me, don't put that out there, then who can I trust to give me that information? We don't want a bunch of yes men and women in our lives that just go, oh, it's great. You're the best. You're the best. You don't grow. You don't get better from that. You need people to say, this is great. This is not great. Sometimes it is black and white and you just need someone to be honest with you, but don't take it personal. You can't grow if you're not being pushed a little bit.
Yeah. We're always our own hero and our own narrative and our own internal story. Everything's always perfect. We've never done anything wrong. We're all sort of, I think everybody's a little narcissistic in that way. Every mirror that we hold to our face is always golden.
Yeah. And I think it's just a built-in self-defense mechanism. People don't like to hear when they have done something terrible or made a mistake. But I will tell you, some of the greatest growth I've experienced in my life is when I've admitted without being provoked when I was wrong or I made a mistake. Whether it was, hey, I was a jerk last night and I blew up and lost my temper, I'll be the first to call that next morning and apologize. But if I did something in a business sense that I made a judgment decision and I did something that cost us a client or a deal or I something happened, if you can't say, man, that was me, I absolutely screwed up. I'm not going to throw my teammate under the bus, my co-founder under the bus. This was 100% on me. I got the egg on my face. And I'll tell you what, people will actually have so much more respect for you if you just say that. If I go, oh, well, this happened and then this happened and it caused this to happen. No. If you just go, I made a mistake. I'm a human. I'm flawed. I made a decision that I thought was right in the moment and it wasn't. And I will do what I can to rectify that. If you take that approach with people in the business world, especially, I've salvaged relationships where I really screwed up something big. And even to the point where like, I need a break from your business, but they've come back because I go, you know what I respected about you in that moment? You didn't make an excuse. You didn't point the finger. You owned it. You found a way to make it up and we can move on from that. So while it's very difficult to point the finger at yourself, there's a lot of value in doing that. So I highly recommend trying it. Next time you mess up, it's really quick to be like, oh, it was him. Don't do that. Put it on yourself. It'll save you a lot.
Yeah. Take the hard path. I think switching gears here, I want to get a little bit more philosophical. What does it mean to build a meaningful human connection in an algorithmically driven world?
So here's one thing in the business world, going back just from my experience of even doing mortgages or even, okay, say you're fighting with your boyfriend or girlfriend and you're on the phone and you're texting, things can be taken out of context when it's read on black and white text. An email can be taken in a way that was never meant to be presented It's really hard to do that sort of miscommunication when we're having a verbal conversation. You accomplish a lot more by picking up a phone and calling somebody or going to their place of business and talking to them than you ever will by getting an email, waiting for a reply, emailing back. So to build a connection, really you're building a rapport. Now you know that you can trust me. I've shown up and delivered what I told you I was going to deliver. I didn't hide behind a keyboard and just sort of do the bare minimum. It takes a lot to put yourself out there, whether it's on a podcast or in a business venture, to go there and be live, be accountable, be boots on the ground, for lack of a better term, because it's so easy to do it digitally now. Everybody's on social media. Everybody texts and email. I can respond to you that way. Some people I know, they never talk to their clients at all. Like, oh, I've never talked to them on the phone, just all email and text. I go, you're easily forgotten that way also. Let's be real. I don't remember somebody I emailed 2 years ago, but if I talked to you on the phone and we had a great conversation like this and I saw your face, or you came up and shook my hand and said, hey, I'm Devin. Nice to meet you. Let's work together. You have now presented yourself in a way that is memorable to me. So if you want to build a relationship with somebody, especially in the business sense, be willing to have conversations, be willing to meet them face to face, because you're going to actually, like I said earlier, put a face to the name and to the voice. And I'm not this mythical internet AI creature. Instead, I'm a living, breathing, working individual that provides value for you. And you know who I am. You know how I sound. You know how I look. We start to build a personal rapport from there as well. A lot of my business clients and podcast people I work with, they become friends of mine. Whether we go to, happy hour or a ball game every weekend is irrelevant. We might live on different sides of the planet or the country. But I know people reach out to me all the time and they just appreciate me for being active and communicating with them. Sometimes a little effort goes a long way. And I know nobody wants to pick up the phone to call like anybody really anymore. That's like a lost art. But I promise you, you get so much more done when you actually talk to people.
Yeah, there's so much information loss, there's so much bit loss and social cues that you don't have when you move from phone calls to texting. You don't get those vocal inflections, those intonations. You don't get the rapid response, the on the fly, maybe the little joke or they breathe in slightly and that added something to the conversation. You lose that. And then to take it one step further, if you go to the in-person conversation, you have the eye contact. You have the how are they standing? You have the how are they sitting? And all of that. So it's so important to pay attention to those social cues and to put those above the ease of conversation. Like you said, if you go out of your way, you gain so much.
And not to sound silly, but even on a level of like being safe, when you're out in public and you're at restaurants or you're at a nightclub or you're walking through the street and it's dark, people that walk around and they're just staring at their phone. It wasn't a phone, but I don't have mine on me. But, just looking at their phone, you're an easy target. If you are so unaware of your social surroundings and you're just consumed with your device, you're the person that people go and mug. You're the people that will take your purse when you're not paying attention. And you can avoid a lot of conflict just by being aware of your social situation. So I highly recommend, and I'm very big proponent of this with my kids. Like when you're outside, put your phone down. You don't need to look at whatever's on your phone. And again, I wish they didn't even have phones, but that's the world they live in. Especially my younger one, my son's going into college. So, he's earned that right and he's proven that he's responsible with it. But putting your device down, it's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. It'll be good for your relationship and social skills building. And also literally you watch all the videos, people holding their phone, walking into traffic, not even like someone's attacking you, but people walking into poles or tripping over things. Pay attention. And you're going to see that the world is actually this big, beautiful place that you've been neglecting because you're living on a screen the size of a calculator.
Yeah, I've noticed that eye contact is very uncommon nowadays. It was something that I've always struggled with in high school. I was always socially anxious. But I've noticed more recently, as I've started to move through the personal development journey and get out of my shell and try and make small talk with people, even somebody who interacts with people every day, like a barista at Starbucks, they're very quiet. They hardly want to say anything. There's no eye contact. Nobody initiates the conversation. So how do you take the first step to put down your phone, to make those human connections?
For me, it was never really something I struggled with because
Hmm.
I'm kind of the unicorn generation because we grew up when
Mm.
I was in middle school and high school, we didn't have cell phones. So we were there like when they first came out and became popular. And obviously they existed, but it was not common for high schoolers to walk around with cell phones. And we got the original brick Nokia phone that the battery would last 40 days and you could drop kick against a wall and it wouldn't break. It was like truly like a brick. So I had a lot of my life where that wasn't even something that was something to deal with. We grew up,
Mm.
we had pagers, right? So I never had that sort of desire to always be digitally connected. Now, we were the first generation that truly adopted it. So I see both sides of the fence. So I think for me, it was common just to not have it, and it's okay. For the kids today and growing up under me, how would you do that? I think the same way that if you were, it's really an addiction. It can become an addiction. It's a dopamine addiction. The same way that a drugs or alcohol can be an addiction. You have to take it. You have to put effort into it. Find something that will keep your attention off of a device. Go for a walk. If every time I'm feeling like anxious, I'm not on my phone, I'm not on my phone, get up and walk around the block. Do something to distract yourself. Find a hobby. Do something to keep your hands busy. Anything. And again, being digitally connected is not the worst thing either.
Sure.
There's a lot of value in it. It's made us the most intelligent. It should make us the most intelligent generation on the planet because we have infinite access at our fingertips. The problem is, and you said a good point, like your local barista or go to a cashier at the grocery store, they don't know how to communicate anymore. So what I like to do, and my wife always gives me a hard time because I'm kind of the obnoxious guy that will literally just talk to you and make people talk to me, even if they don't want to. They're like, they're scanning my whole order and they haven't said a word to me. Not, hi, how are you? Can I get you? Would you like bags? Nothing, no communication. I will go out of my way to engage you because I want to make you engage. I want you to be uncomfortable because there's importance in that. And I do it with my daughter. Like when my parents will come over or friends, if my daughter is sitting there like, I'm not gonna, I'm like, no, we're talking. Put your phone down. We're going to engage. Ask them how they're doing. And it's a skill set. Just like anything, you have to learn it. You have to practice it. So put it down. Your Instagram will be there in 10 minutes. Your account's not going to get deleted. Try talking the old fashioned way. I'm telling you, it's worth it. And you'll learn more and you'll become better at it. And then, you'll do it out of fun because you just like talking to people.
Yeah. I do have to say, I've been talking about technology on a lot of these recent episodes. I'm not anti-technology by any means. I did like 3 months of no social media this year, and I came back to it because it did provide some sort of social connection. When I'm sick in bed, I could still talk to my friends. I could still connect with what they're watching. So ultimately, it is an aspect of life that we do have to get comfortable with. People still try to send me TikToks. I didn't have a TikTok for the longest time. And they still sent me them. And I would see them in person and be like, oh, did you see that video I sent? And I'd have to say, well, no. Sorry, we can't connect over this one particular thing. So it is important to find that balance.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's going to get more and more connected. There's going to be more and more devices. And you can look at my background behind me. Clearly, I'm not against technology. I embrace it. You should use it. Use the resources that you have to do the job that you need to do. But don't think that that's the only lifestyle that there is. And don't forget that your digital life is not real life. And
Mm-hmm.
what you say in a chat room, while it can be screenshotted and recorded forever, that's not the real world. So don't get a sense of false security or anything that you do online, leave it online, but have a real life as well. And again, doesn't mean your online life is not real, but it's digital. It's like watching a program. Be willing to go out there and interact with people around you because it's more rewarding. It's okay to take a break and then come back. For example, for Lent this past year, my son, who was only 17 at the time, gave up social media for 40 days. Pretty daunting task for a 17-year-old. And I think it was really good for his mental health. He felt really good. It made him do things he wouldn't normally do. He was exercising more. He was getting out more. He was socializing with his friends in person more instead of just like, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. It's like, that's brainless, mindless communication. Instead, he's like, hey, man, you want to get together and go bowling? Yes, go out and do those things. That's the fun of life. Don't live your life in your room on a device. the world is humongous, and you can't see it from your telephone. And that's
Yeah.
how old I am. I call it a telephone.
Yeah, you touched on something there, and it reminded me of a quote. And I'm paraphrasing here because it's been a long time since I've read it. I don't even remember where it's from, but it's something along the lines of, "Be careful how you interpret the world, because that's how it is to you." I think if you are chronically online, if you're always scrolling through, doom scrolling TikTok, and you see these videos of, whatever's happening in, whatever country is bombing whatever other country, that's the world that you will live in. You will live in that miserable, depressed, angry world. But if you look up and you actually connect with people, everybody's smiling. I haven't had a in-person confrontation or conflict in, I don't remember the last time, but online it's like, it seems like every single day there's always something going on.
Yeah, and again, not to make anything politically based, but media is propaganda on both sides. Whether you lean right or lean left, it's irrelevant. If you watch a certain station, you're going to get their spin on events. And that's okay, but it's a television program. It's a program for a reason. And look, I work in media. I've worked for politically leaning stations, and I know what I'm going to get when I turn on their station. I know which way they're going to spin the story. And people forget that you're being told an angle from the way people view it. Sure. And again, a lot of it's fear mongering in the media and mainstream media. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't worry. And I'm not overly politically driven. And the reason why is because exactly what you just said. When you consume content like that all day, every day, those are the people that are paranoid and miserable and scared. And it's Chicken Little. The sky is always falling down. And you don't need to live your life consuming every negative thing that happens in the world. There's a great show too on a radio station I used to work for, and her name is Angie Austin, and it's called The Good News. And it's just fun, upbeat, feel good stories. And I'm telling you, if you turn that on every once in a while, something like that or in that category, it takes such a weight off your shoulders. Like, the impending world war is coming. No, it's really not, because you also said something that's right. If you go in your local community, people get along for the most part. They're nice to each other. They're cordial. They smile. They like living next to you. And it doesn't mean that there's not bad eggs out there. Of course there are. And you got to be careful around those people. But for the most part, if you're respectful and treat people decently, that's exactly what you're going to get back.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to what we were talking about earlier with attention. It's all a drive for those minutes in the day that you have. That's the most valuable real estate for social media companies, is how much time you actually spend on their app or their website. And the best way to do that is to sell you things that make you a little uncomfortable or a little afraid. Because when you come back, you're like, I need to know what else is going on. I need to stay connected to what other bad things are happening or may be happening or have happened.
Yeah, and you said something really important there. And your greatest asset in life is not your money. It's your time. Your time is the one thing you can't get back. I can lose $100 and make $100. When I die, if I died tomorrow, whatever money I got left, it ain't going with me. My time is truly the most valuable asset and resource that I have. So do I want to spend all of my time watching something online that's trying to drive me into fear or to be controlled or to tell me that everything's bad and I should, whatever they want you to do? I'm not going to do that. I don't want to waste my time living that way, because what benefit do I get? And you're right. If you're not the one that's putting content out there, then you're the consumer. And if you're the consumer, you're the product. We, as consumers of YouTube, Instagram, even podcast, we are the target product, because we're the ones watching and spending all our time there. That's why they put ads in those things. People pay to be seen. So if I never turn off CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or your podcast or your YouTube channel, they have advertisers that put their product on those platforms. We're the product. We are the product. So, it's just, don't be naive to those things. Don't let your life be consumed digitally. Get out, enjoy the world, get into your actual community, and you'll see that things aren't as bleak as they might appear on TV and the internet.
Yeah. On the topic of time, how do you know when something's worth spending your time on? How do you know if a venture is worth pursuing, or this particular hobby is something that is worth that hour of your day?
I think first and foremost, if it gives you joy, you're not hurting anyone, then that's a good place to start, right? you got to find passion in your life, and going to do your 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, go home, order your, Uber Eats, Netflix and chill, go to bed. That's not life. I mean, that's like the routine we all have to do. We all got bills to pay and life to take care of. So there is sort of this area of life that is unavoidable. We all sleep. We all got to eat. We all, take showers and go to work and whatever we have to do for the day. When you do get that very coveted free time, that's really hard, especially when you're younger. When you're trying to find your way in the world and trying to make ends meet, you have to find and give your time to things that check a few boxes. One, is it something you're passionate about? Do you get joy and satisfaction from doing this? Maybe that's working out. Maybe that's donating your time at the local food shelter. That would be another box. Are you doing something good for your community? Then the answer is always yes. If I'm helping somebody, does this mean that I'm wasting my time? Absolutely not. I'm doing something very valuable. And there's another great saying, you can't change the world, but you can change somebody's world. So if you're providing a service or something that really is benefiting even one person, then I would say it's absolutely worth pursuing. And then again, if you want to start a business, is this something that will make your life better, solve a problem, something you're passionate about? Do it. Don't hurt people. Don't be a taker, and go out there and provide value for your community, your family, the world if you can, even if it's a small area of the world. That's what's worth investing your time in.
Yeah, people love counting things. They love to count their calories, their finances, their reps at the gym, all of these different things, the hours that they work, but they never actually sit down, and nobody ever really counts where those spare minutes go. I think if you do that, you'll find that you actually have way more time than you thought. I did this recently. I did this about a month ago, right before I started the podcast. I was like, okay, do I actually have time to pursue this? And it turns out, yeah, my screen time was like 20 hours a week. It's like, okay, perfect. If I just put down the phone for 20 hours, I can work a whole nother, part-time job.
Yeah, do the simple 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. That's 168 hours in a week. If you take 40 of those for the traditional work, you still got 128 hours left in a week. That's after your work. Now take off 56 more hours for sleep. Now all of a sudden, you got a big chunk of time left still. How much are you eating and how much TV are you watching? Those things are like where you can slim down your free time. And then again, going back to what we said earlier, even 30 minutes a day for 30 days in a row is going to make you proficient at something. It's really not hard to find 30 minutes. I guarantee you, I will play Wordle on my phone in the morning sometimes for 30 minutes. It's brainless. It's just something I do to get my day started or whatever. Sure. Or playing a stupid block game on my phone because I'm killing 10 minutes. I could use that time more wisely. And sometimes I do. Sometimes it's okay to also just have some junk time and just relax or sleep in. And, one of my favorite things to do, because I work hard. I run a couple of businesses. I also have regular jobs because just like you, podcasting, while a great passion of mine, and I'm building this company, I can't comfortably pay for everything I have right now with just that. So I still have to do other things. So I'm busy. I get up early. I work hard. I like to go to the gym. I got 2 kids that I take care of. I'm married. I have a social life. There's a lot of things that keep me busy. My favorite thing to do sometimes is just to have a slow morning where I'm not on my phone. I'm not instantly checking my emails and social media. I just leave it in the other room. I'll sleep in a little bit and just lay in bed and just soak in a few moments. Sometimes you have to do that for yourself because that's good for your mental health as well. So, there's a bit of give and take. Work hard and don't waste time. But sometimes taking time for yourself, that's not a waste either. That's needed to rejuvenate.
Yeah. You can't be go 24/7. You have to have those minutes. And I think you touched on something really important as well. It's okay to be on your phone for those 10 minutes. As long as, to use the food analogy again, as long as your entire day isn't ramen and Kit Kats and Skittles, I think you'll be all right. If you have some chicken in there, some broccoli, some salad, I think you'll be all right.
They say moderation, all things in moderation, including moderation.
Absolutely.
So you can't overdo any one asset or area, including work. You can't work too hard. You can't work out too hard. You can't be lazy too hard. You have to have a good balance. And that's really what it comes down to, is finding what matters to you and what you want to spend your time on, and then find the appropriate balance to be successful, whether that's a career, maybe you go on to start a family. When you start a family, all of a sudden your time it's consumed in a way that you don't really plan for before you have a family, but it happens because now I got people relying on me. But you know what though? That became something that was more important than anything I would have done with that free time. Watching my kids grow up and being there for them is far more exciting and valuable to me than any night at a bar, any vacation I missed, or any party I didn't get to go to. Those things I look back on, I don't miss them. I would be a much different person if I didn't have the two kids in my life that made me grow up, made me focus on what really mattered, and sort of drove me to be a more focused individual. So those things come with time and age. You just got to roll with the punches and learn as you go, be consistent and true to yourself, get out into the wild every once in a while and shake some hands and have some real conversations. And don't feel too guilty if you don't do it perfect the first time. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to slip up. What you do is you get up, you get back to work, and then you figure it out along the way.
Yeah. I have one more question for you, and I think you just answered it really, really well. So if all of your work disappeared, if this podcast, all of your other podcasts were wiped off the face of the planet, and you could only leave behind one sentence, what would it be?
It's a great question, by the way. And obviously, if I lost everything, I would still have this legacy of my kids. But if I had to boil everything down to one sentence, what would I want my grave, stone, my headstone to say? It would be something along the lines of, be true to yourself and give selflessly. And if you do that, you're going to find that everything comes back to you tenfold. When I give selflessly, people see that, and it, karma's in my favor. Favor is, the bold. I forget the saying. Favor tends to find the bold. I'm messing that up completely, but just be true to yourself and be selfless and give, and then it'll come back to you. It always does. So that's a long sentence, but that would be my sentence, I guess.
Awesome. Awesome. Joe, thank you for doing this. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Devin, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Yeah. Where can people find you before we go?
Yeah, so you can find my particular podcast online, themeasuringpost.com. I run a company called Podtopia Network. You can go to podtopianetwork.com. We're currently revamping our website, hopefully out next week. So depending on when this is actually released, it might be up or not. But Joe Massa, Massa, it's like Massachusetts without the Chusets. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think I'm on TikTok. I don't really do that, but find me online, LinkedIn. I'm there as well. As we talked about not being so digital, we'll start digitally. And if you want to get to know me better, reach out. I'm an open book.